One of the dumbest narratives that still exists today around the NBA is that Kobe Bryant was carried by Shaq during the Lakers' three-peat in the early 2000s. Having watched those series and actually being turned into a Kobe Bryant fan during those years, I understand that this is laughable and that I probably don't even need to bother addressing it most of the time. But still, there may be those who didn't get to watch the amazing performances by both Kobe and Shaq and only have short highlights and box scores to try to draw the full picture from. Anytime you try to do that, you're going to come up short. So if you are truly interested in learning about everything that surrounded that three-peat team, including the chemistry, Phil Jackson's influence as coach, and the toughness that both of these players displayed against a formidable Western Conference, I would suggest you try to get your hands on the full games so that you can relive one of the greatest runs in NBA playoffs history. There's a lot of examples of Kobe Bryant taking over games and saving the Lakers from what would have been guaranteed defeat, especially in the rounds leading up to the finals, but also in the finals. It's in these cases that the stats are extremely misleading sometimes, because this was a team that was centered around a powerful force down low, a situation in which the offense is meant to run from inside out. But you've probably already heard the stories of Kobe taking over in Game 4 versus Indiana with Shaq fouled out, and Kobe putting up back-to-back 40-point 10-rebound performances in the Western Conference, leading to the finals in 2001. You might have heard of Kobe Bryant taking over the fourth quarter in the 2002 playoffs and posting finals numbers that matched Shaq and playoffs numbers that were extraordinary for a first option, let alone a second. While I can talk about these playoffs performances, let's first take a look at the regular season to understand why Kobe's development in the 2000 season was so crucial for the success that the Lakers would experience later on. Just before the start of the season, Kobe broke his wrist and was forced to miss the first month of Lakers basketball with Phil Jackson. The Lakers began the season pretty strong nonetheless, with a record of 11-4. One of the 4 losses came against the Houston Rockets when both Kobe and Shaq were out. But when Kobe returned to the lineup at the start of December, the Lakers went on a run that made the 11-4 record look average. The Lakers won 20 of their next 21 games, including the first 4 victories with double-digit margins. A couple months later, in the start of February, the Lakers won 18 straight again, with Kobe averaging 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists on 51% field goal shooting and 38% from 3. During this time, Shaq was averaging 31 points and 15 rebounds. So this was possibly the very first time we got to see the strength of the 1-2 punch that would later dominate the playoffs for 3 straight years. This was also the first year that Kobe was really emerging as a superstar, and together the duo was just too strong and too talented to stop. They went on to have a 67-15 record for the season. Of course, when the playoffs started, the goal was to feed Shaq down low and try to create opportunities through the mismatches that were created from this offense. Kobe held his own, averaging 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 4.5 assists, 1.5 steals, and 1.5 blocks, with 46% field goal shooting and 37% from 3, leading up to the finals. Up until the finals, Shaq was matching Kobe's 23 with his own 28 points a game, and this was the only season where there was a huge difference between Shaq and Kobe's scoring output. Keep in mind that we are talking about the entire playoffs and not just the finals. The fact that Shaq was averaging 28 points per game through the playoffs before he went on to average 38 in the finals showed that the Western Conference was doing a much better job of limiting his effectiveness, despite the fact that the Lakers were attempting to get him easy buckets all game long. Of course, there's ignorant fans who are going to point at Shaq's finals averages and suggest that because he clearly outplayed every other player in the finals, he was carrying the Lakers for the entire season. Well, you can see now why this claim is ludicrous. But as I mentioned in my video about Kobe Bryant's injuries, he wasn't done when the finals began. The 2000 finals was one of the biggest stages where Kobe had to battle through a serious injury, and he did exactly that. After scoring 14 points in Game 1, Kobe Bryant was injured at the start of Game 2 and played only 9 minutes, ending with 2 points. If you still somehow don't understand how this is going to drop someone's stat averages, feel free to ask in the comment section below. In the game that Kobe returned to save the day, he played 47 minutes on his bad ankle and scored 28 points, leading the Lakers to a close victory with Shaq fouled out. The very next game, the Lakers lost by 33, so you can see that without Kobe in Game 4, the Lakers may have ended up losing the series, heading to Staples Center down 3-2. This was the first finals series where we would see Shaq taking advantage of obvious mismatches in the paint, because the Eastern Conference simply did not have the big men that the Western Conference did in Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Rasheed Wallace, and more. The 2001 season was the first season that Kobe Bryant was undeniably at the superstar level in the NBA. Players and coaches around the league had already accepted Kobe as a top 5 player at this point, but when it came to skill, he was easily top 2 or top 3 at the very least. During the season, Kobe increased his averages from 22.5 points to 28.5, while maintaining his efficiency, rebounds, assists, and steals. After having the best year of his entire career, Shaq came back with 28.7 points per game in the 2001 season to match Kobe's 28.5. For some reason, people think that one player can average 28.7 and carry a player averaging 28.5, but let's just look at the season anyway. While the Lakers didn't get on any insane winning streaks like the previous year, they were still pretty consistent and found their groove at the end of the season. They finished with 56 wins compared to 67 the previous year. Kobe had 6 40-point games this season, including a 50-point game, and Shaq had 2 of his own. When the Lakers began to find their rhythm at the end of the season, they went on an insane win streak that I mentioned in my video about Shaq a couple weeks ago. The Lakers ended their season winning 8 straight and then went on their 15-1 playoff run that is still considered the greatest run of all time. During these 2001 playoffs, the Lakers again faced a tough Western Conference on their way to the finals that included 3 50-win teams in Portland, Sacramento, and San Antonio. Going against tough big men such as Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Rasheed Wallace, and Chris Webber, Shaq's numbers dipped since the end of the season when he was averaging around 34 points per game over the last 8 games. To start the playoffs, he was down to 29 points and 15 rebounds per game, which are still extraordinary numbers even if it's just one guy. But luckily for the Lakers, it wasn't just one guy. Kobe Bryant was averaging 31.6 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.5 steals, and 49% from the field going into the finals. This was just one of the several times that Kobe Bryant did more than hold his own weight for the Lakers to get into the finals without a single loss, despite the fact that you could argue some of these series were noticeably tougher than the finals that year. Some of these games included an insane back-to-back 2 games by Kobe Bryant, 48 points and 16 rebounds to close out the Kings in Game 4, followed by another 45 points and 10 rebounds to start the series versus the Spurs. What's even more extraordinary is that he was doing this and getting multiple dunks against the Spurs, who had arguably the greatest front court in the game at the time, 2 7-footers averaging a combined 37 points and 21 rebounds between them. When it was finally time to play the 76ers, Shaq would only have to deal with an older Dikembe Mutombo compared to a young Tim Duncan or Chris Webber, and he took advantage as he should have. Kobe Bryant was entering the finals with 31, 7, and 6 averages, numbers that you would see on any MVP carrying his team to a championship. When Kobe took a step back in the finals to let Shaq feast upon the weaker opposition, Shaq finished with 33 points a game compared to Kobe's 25. This is just another example of how knowing the whole story will help you see how it took more than one great performance for one series to win the championship, let alone doing it with only one playoffs loss. Calling this a carrying job is similar to calling Oklahoma City Thunder a one-man show when they had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook each averaging over 24 points per game and each playing a different role. It's like saying Kareem carried Magic Johnson based on the fact that he scored more than Magic for one series, despite the fact that Magic is the playmaker and Kareem is the primary scorer. Of course, only one of these players is going to win the Finals MVP because as far as I know, they're not planning on handing out co-MVP awards regardless of how the players play. It makes no sense for anyone other than Shaq to win the Finals MVP in the 2000 Finals, but to base the entire argument on the fact that Shaq won Finals MVP 3 times is just another way to tell people that you don't really understand the whole story or what it took for the Lakers to put together such a strong playoff run. It was during this 2001 Finals that Phil Jackson said that Kobe Bryant was possibly the best player on the floor when he finished 1 assist shy of a triple-double and played tremendous defense against Allen Iverson, who shot 12 for 30 in Game 4. Phil Jackson said that Kobe seemed to be the key of the series because the Lakers only won when he was playing well. I'm willing to bet you didn't know that if you were ever on the side who thought Shaq carried Kobe. There are many people who think that Kobe's output in the 2001 season was the real MVP performance, but unfortunately they don't hand out any awards for the overall playoffs. During this stretch, Kobe had a higher true shooting percentage and averaged less turnovers than Shaq, despite the fact that he was the primary playmaker and handling the ball more than any other player. In the 2002 season, Kobe again played at a superstar level. The Lakers fell short of 60 wins, but it was this season that Kobe began to show off a little. During a regular season game with Shaq out due to a suspension, Kobe scored 56 points in 3 quarters against the Memphis Grizzlies, which is a game that's seriously underrated and relatively unknown. What kind of a player can put up 56 points in 3 quarters if he's just being carried to free championships, regular season or not? In the playoffs, Kobe played great again, averaging 26.5 points, 6 rebounds and 5 assists for the entire playoffs to continue his dominance alongside Shaq. When the finals began, Shaq again took advantage of the weaker New Jersey Nets bigs, and Kobe's averages dipped as Shaq was the obvious choice in the set offense. But before the finals, it was the same old story from 2001. Shaq and Kobe had nearly equal scoring, with Shaq dominating the boards and Kobe being the primary playmaker and handling the ball. Both were less dominant than 2001, but they won the 3rd championship nonetheless. So that's all I have to say for now, and believe me, there is more that can be said regarding the Lakers and their 3 title runs. I don't know if it'll help anyone who is actually biased against Kobe to see the truth about the impact both players had, and that it was more of Kobe and Shaq carrying the Lakers than one player carrying the other. But at the end of the day, some people are just never going to get it. It is what it is. Please share this video with someone who's afflicted with whatever disease it is that makes them say Shaq won 3 rings by himself, and hopefully it's not too late to save them. Stay tuned for more Kobe and Lakers content.